protected by this constitution that protects us as living natural humans.
Yep.
What about if this is where I've got to use some quite clever code words that you might not have heard before. So, what about if roughly 3.5 years ago, there was a widespread experimental procedure that altered, maybe you want to get a button ready for this,
I've got it, mate.
That altered the natural code within everyone's meat suit to a level where legally, under the legislation of the land, they would no longer be considered human.
Gosh.
Would that exclude them from something like this constitution?
Oh, my.
Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yep, 100%. So in the law, you are innocent or guilty based on your intent and your consent, right? So an individual that can't consent to something can't be guilty of it, right? And Mark Passio goes through the difference between nescience and ignorance, right? When he talks about it. Where nescience means you're genuinely clueless and didn't know, and ignorant means you were made aware of something and then chose to ignore it.
Willingly.
Right? Willingly, exactly. That's why ignorance is no defense in a court of law, right? Because you were told and you chose to ignore it willingly. Whereas nescience would be a defense in a court of law. Because if you didn't know genuinely, you didn't know. So in a situation where someone is claiming, well, that person's not human anymore, there's a compassion piece for those of us who are fully functional, shall we say, and fully cognitive in a natural operating dynamic. And really, the onus comes on to us from an ethical perspective. That individual...
Question, before you go any further, so sorry to interrupt. I obviously didn't go to the Britney Spears concert, nor did anyone probably listening to this or watching this.
Code word there.
Did they have to sign something before?
What, do you consent to no longer being a human?
But what I was getting at, if you just have to sign something, like, did anyone read the small print on that?
I don't know if you have
maybe
to sign
that's
something.
The consent. Maybe you just wavered away your nescience to ignorance in that bit.
Totally.
I don't know.
Think,
maybe
right.
when you made the booking,
that would be a wave. That would be a wave. That would cop out, like just a little waiver.
They'll trick you. They'll trick you out of it if they can.
Right. So consent in an energetic, spiritual context has to be clean and transparent. So if they've put something, in reality, nowhere in the small print or the T's and C's did they say, this is exactly what this is and this is what we're trying to do and this is what you're testing or experimenting for us. Nowhere have they stated that anywhere. So nowhere was the full and clear intent made known. So the consent couldn't have been, transparent consent could never have been attained. Right? They could pretend in a legal court where they've got one of their biased judges to put a sentence or a verdict in their favour.
Yeah, but that's my point. Like, they don't care about the legal or the lawful. They care about the karmic. So long as they've got their little fucking controlled judge, that's irrelevant to them. They're all they need to do is put that little fine print in there, get someone to sign it, and as far as they're concerned, the karmic debt is gone.
The reason I'm bringing this up, apart from the fact it's an interesting point, is that there have been various, sort of like actual scientific papers stating that after someone has gone through Mirena gene therapy, they're basically, if you look at their genetic code compared to a Homo sapien, they would be called like Homo sapien 1.2 or something. That's how they would be classed, and there were even these cases,
and they could be data mined by Bill Gates.
Yeah, and even lawyers were getting involved in saying, well, yeah, legally, these people could, these corporations could sort of claim that your DNA is now their property because it's actually a creation,
and they could be patented, Michael.
That's the whole idea. So it makes me wonder if that is part of the reason for this reconfiguration of people's RNA. Is actually so that it creates a loophole, a legal loophole, to bypass things like
and a karmic loophole.
Yeah,
in their mindset.
In their minds, yeah. I mean, karmically, obviously, if you fool someone, karmically,
Yeah.
you're screwed, right?
Again,
You don't get away with it.
I hate to do it, but if you go and read the Talmud, it says that if you can fool someone, a goyim, that's fair game.
Yeah, well, but
that's
karma,
fair game.
Talmudic karma is very different to like Buddhist karma or something like that.
Yeah, but
Yeah, that's not natural. The Talmudic karma is not natural law
Yeah,
karma.
yeah,
Mark Padgett said
That's karmic law straight from the Quip
guys,